Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 8, entitled Questions by King Parikshit, text number 8. From the word forward. Asit, as it grew, Yat Udarat, from whose abdomen, Padmam, lotus flower, Loka, world, Samstana, situation, Lakshanam, possessed of, Yavan, as it were, Ayam, this, Vai, certainly, Purushaha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Iyatha, measurement, Avayavahi, by embodiments, Prithak, situation, different, Tavan, so, aso, that, iti proktaha, it is so said, Sangsta, situation, Avayavavan, embodiment, Iva, like, Asid yad udarat padmam, Loka samstana lakshanam, Yavan nayang vai purusha, Iyata vayavai pratak tavan nasaviti prokta Sangstavayavavaniva Asidya dudarat padmang Loka sangstana lakshanam Yavanayang vai purusha Iyatavayavai pritak Tavan saviti prokta Sangstavayavan Iva Asidya dudarat padmam Loka sangstana lakshanam Yavanayam bhai purusha Iyatavayavai pritak Tavan saviti prokta Sangstavayavaniva
Asidya dudarat padmam
Asidya dudarat padmam
loka samstana lakshanam
Loka sangstana lakshanam
yavanayam vai purusha
Yavanayam vai purusha
yata vayavavai patak
Iyatavayavai pritak
avanasaviti prokta
Tavan saviti prokta
samstavaya bhavaniva.
Sangstavayavavaniva
Asitya tudarat padma.
Asidya dudarat padmam
Loka sangstana lakshanam.
Loka sangstana lakshanam
Yavanayang Vaipurusha
Yavanayam vai purusha
Yatavaya Vaipritak
Iyatavayavai pritak
Tavana Saviti Prokta
Tavan saviti prokta
Sangstavaya Bhavaniva.
Sangstavayavavaniva
Asidyat udarat padmang
Asidya dudarat padmam
loka sangstana lakshana
Loka sangstana lakshanam
yavanayang vai purusha
Yavanayam vai purusha
iyatavaya vai pritak
Iyatavayavai pritak
tavana saviti prokta
Tavan saviti prokta
ya sangstavaya va iva
Sangstavayavavaniva
Asirya Dudarat Padmam
Asidya dudarat padmam
Loka Sangstana Lakshanam
Loka sangstana lakshanam
Yavanayam Vaipurusha
Yavanayam vai purusha
Iyatavaya Vaipratak
Iyatavayavai pritak
Avana Saviti Prokta
Bhavana saviti prokta
Sangstavaya Vavaniva.
Sangstavayavavaniva Okay. Asit. Oh, I realize now that I did the word for word before. So let's continue to the translation. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whose abdomen the lotus stem sprouted, is possessed of a gigantic body according to his own caliber and measurement, then what is the specific difference between the body of the Lord and those of common living entities? Purport. One should note how Maharaj Parikshit intelligently put questions before his spiritual master for scientific understanding of the transcendental body of the Lord. It has been described in many places before this that the Lord assumed a gigantic body, like that of Karano Dakashayi Vishnu, from whose hair pores innumerable universes have generated. The body of Garbho Dakashayi Vishnu is described as sprouting the lotus stem within which all the planets of the universe remain. And at the top of the stem is the lotus flower on which Lord Brahma is born. In the creation of the material world, the Supreme Lord undoubtedly assumes a gigantic body, and living entities also get bodies, big or small, according to necessity. For example, an elephant gets a gigantic body according to its needs, and so also an ant gets its body according to its needs. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead assumes a gigantic body to accommodate the universes or the planets of a particular universe. There is no difference in the principle of assuming or accepting a particular type of body in terms of necessity. A living being and the Lord cannot be distinguished simply by the difference in the magnitude of the body. So the answer depends on the specific significance of the body of the Lord as distinguished from the body of the common living being. Maharaj, we would love to hear from you.
Well, one difference is that the Lord's body is transcendental, spiritual. It never ages, it never grows old, it never dies. And it's not that like the living entities, they're spiritual beings, but they're inside a body, a material body, temporarily while they're in the material world. So that's one major difference. And another difference is that the Lord appears by his own internal potency. Atmamaya. He comes by his own, he's not forced to come by material nature. Whereas the living entities, they come working under Maya Dakshina, but the material energy works under Krishna's or God's control. Whereas the living entities, they're under the control of material nature. As long as they're conditioned. In the material world, they're conditioned. But in the spiritual world, if they become purified, then they become under the direction of the divine energy, transcendental energy. But the Lord never comes under the control of the material energy. Always transcendental. And the specific significance of the body of the Lord and the common living entity gets a body according to his work, according to his karmic activities. He gets a material body and according to his desires. So he may get a body of an elephant or a body of an ant. But when the Lord appears, even in the material world, he's not influenced. He's not under the control of material energy. He's not forced to get a body. He comes out of his own will. For example, when the Lord comes as boar, it's necessity, in one sense, that he come and take the body of a boar. But that necessity is determined by him, not by anyone else. It's not that the Lord has to do some work and someone gives him an order, and if he doesn't come, there's some punishment. He's simply free to perform his pastimes if he likes, as he likes. They are completely under his control. His pastimes are not controlled by time. In the material world, everything is working under past, present, and future time factor. But the Lord works in transcendental way, not affected by time. Although he may appear at a certain scheduled time, that's his own choice, not forced.
This is some of the differences between the Supreme Lord and the living entities. And Prabhupada says that we should note how Maharaj Parikshit intelligently put questions before his spiritual master for scientific understanding of the transcendental body of the Lord. And this is reminding me, yesterday we were reading the Krishna book, and we heard that after Jarasandha was defeated by Bhima, then Krishna rescued all the kings and princes who were enslaved by Jarasandha. And those kings and princes made some prayers. They recited some prayers, or amongst them, recited the prayers. And it stated that they're glorifying the Lord, and they mentioned that it's amazing how the Supreme Lord can act like an ordinary human being. But actually, we should understand, and they stated this, that he is like a dramatic actor. So he's acting, and they made a comment about the sun, that though through the setting and rising of the sun, it may feel colder or hotter, the sun is actually always burning with the same temperature. So similarly, through, wherever the Lord may be and however he may act, he is that same supreme personality of Godhead, unaffected by the material modes of nature. And I like the point that Maharaj, you made about the need of the Lord. He decides his need, his pastimes, his lila. If he deems it pleasurable, if it's his sweet will to engage in a certain pastime in a certain form, or he determines that it's needed that I descend in this way at this time in history, according to, then that's automatically executed by his various potencies, which are fully under his control. That Parasya Shaktar Vividhaiva Shruyate, that his potencies are automatically acting according to his sweet will. So that's the difference. We have our desires are fully dependent upon the Lord. And actually, I think it was Sahadev was stating at the Rajasuya sacrifice of King Yudhishthir, after the kings and princes were released by Krishna, then they were treated very nicely by the king, which was put into power by Krishna after Jarasandha, who happened to be Jarasandha's son. So the son of Jarasandha was given the throne, and he was instructed by Krishna to treat all these kings, the former prisoners of the son's father, very nicely. Then after that, Krishna, Bhima, and Arjuna went back to Hastinapur, and they met with King Yudhishthir, and King Yudhishthir was given information about all the Leela of Krishna, and he was in ecstasy. Then the Rajasuya sacrifice was started, and King Yudhishthir invited so many wonderful sages, which are named Shiva, Brahma, and Indra, and many great kings with their queens, and they were going to perform the sacrifice, and they needed to, on the day that they chose the referee priest, the referee brahmana, then they also had to decide who would be worshipped first. And I think it's called Agra Puja, the first person to be worshipped. So they have to decide the first person. And Sahadev explains, I may be mistaken on the name, but he starts explaining that even the four progressive values or four progressive activities of the human society, which are namely religion, sense gratification, economic development, and finally liberation from the material contamination, all of these are fully dependent upon Krishna. So even those activities which are used by the human society for elevation are completely dependent upon Krishna. And then it's stated there that, and as we hear many times, the person who's advocating for Krishna being the Agra Puja states that just like watering the root of the tree, you supply all the leaves and branches, and just as you feed the stomach, then you feed the whole body. Worshipping Krishna and offering him respect is pleasing to everybody. So everything is dependent upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's not dependent upon anything else. But as far as we, the living entities, we're always dependent. We're dependent for our sustenance, for our progressive march towards liberation. We're relying on him for our fruitive activities and everything in life. I can't even digest without, I'm not conscious of the process of digestion which happens in this body. And I am the so-called master of this body, but I have no idea how to make it work. And that's Krishna's mercy, is that he actually gives that bewilderment that I am the master of this body and I'm the master of other bodies and other properties, even though I have zero idea how to consciously maintain any of them. He gives that bewilderment as a reciprocation of the living entity's desire to turn away from Krishna. So it's very wonderful that Krishna is so powerful. His body is completely different. He has the Satchit Ananda body, and these bodies that we think that we are here in this material world are full of ignorance and misery, and they are also temporary. And it is stating that the kings that were rescued from Jarasanda's imprisonment, they were stating how previously they were really puffed up with their material acquisitions and their different sacrifices that they were doing. And they tell Krishna that actually there's no point to be attached to anything temporary. So we have these bodies and they're completely different than the Lord's transcendental body. So those are a few thoughts here. Maybe we can have some more thoughts from the devotees. Maybe something that you heard that you can repeat. Yes. Mridanga Prabhu.
So because Krishna is never affected by his material energy, he never comes under the modes of material nature. He never associates with the material tamagun, rajagun, or sattvagun. And yet we, because we're so tiny, we fall under the influence of these modes, which have unlimited combinations and which subject us to threefold miseries. The goddess Durga's, her service is to convince us that we cannot enjoy the modes of nature, which is Krishna's energy, without Krishna. That it is therefore it is the cause of our misery, and it inflicts us in so many ways, threefold. They're Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautaka, and Adi Daivaka miseries. One is constantly coming after the other. So if one is not suffering from one, he's suffering from the other. Upon actually further examination, we can understand that we're actually suffering from all three of them simultaneously, and one just becomes dominant in our consciousness at any particular given time. But we're completely under their superintendence, and so like you were saying, yeah, we are dependent at every moment on the mercy of Krishna to not only to supply our needs and to maintain our lives and our bodies, but also to free us from these the miseries and from the influence of these energies that we are constantly being oppressed by and dominated by.
Thank you. Did you have something, Marsh? There was something I thought about when you were speaking, that that point about how one of the sufferings, one of the varieties, Adi Daivika Klesha, Adi Bhautika Klesha, Adi Yatmika Klesha, these three different types of sufferings are pretty much always present for us, and one of them becomes prominent, and we just kind of forget about the other ones, while we're suffering this other one. Like we may have stubbed our toe or something, and it really hurts. It may even be broken. But we're so disturbed mentally about something that's happening between me and this person, or this external arrangement. Oh, there's this accommodation, or there's this feeling that I'm having, or there was this exchange of words. Then I even forget that I stubbed my toe, even though it later on, as soon as I kind of settle down, it may start hurting again. So it was hurting before too, but anyway, nice point. Right. There was another thing, which was that the body of Krishna is so transcendentally sweet that Vyasadeva in this prayer is praying that the Dharmadarastakam, that he can always behold the form of Krishna as mine. So this isn't any mundane form. It's totally different. And it can be drunk with the eyes constantly. And that is actually the desire of the devotees. Even Shankaracharya stated, was saying, that he wanted to see Lord Jagannath, his transcendental form. Okay, Jagannath Prabhu? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering, how would one describe Krishna's transcendental nature? And kind of like, yeah. So how does one describe his transcendental nature?
Well, there's different examples that are given. Like there was that one that we mentioned that is like the sun. It may seem like it's getting hotter and colder based on the setting of the sun, but actually he's always burning with the same temperature. So he's always completely transcendental, even though he may have different apparent activities in this material world. He's like a dramatic actor. Dramatic actor, he's his own person behind the scenes, but he may play some different roles, but he's himself always. Then there's another example that wherever there is, wherever there is Krishna, Krishna is just like the sun. Krishna Surya Sama, right? He's just like the sun. And wherever there is Krishna, there cannot be any darkness, just as wherever there is the sun, there cannot be shadow. So these are some examples. There's also another one that the Lord is, this whole Leela where he manifests himself as the Karna Dakshai Vishnu and breathes out the universes and so forth, right? His creation of the material world. It's like, just like a spider. Spider manifests from its own potency, from its own body, a web. Then he plays on the web without getting entangled inside of the web. And then whenever he wants, he can like withdraw the web and then go on his sweet way. So that's another example of his transcendental nature. He can even manifest all these modes of nature. Then he plays inside of it without getting entangled, just like the spider can dance very easily upon the web. And somehow, by his mystic powers, he's never trapped by the sticky, strings. And for us, we get on the web and we're stuck, and then we struggle and we're bound up even more. And that was another thing, like Mridanga Prabhu was saying, we are dependent on Krishna to get out of it too. We have to call to him. That's actually the culture of prayer that we're developing in this Krishna consciousness movement, is to pray to Krishna to help us become free from the material energy. And why? Because we want to be situated as a speck of dust at his lotus feet. We want to serve him. That's who we are. And, we want to be true to ourselves, and we don't want to rob Krishna of any service that we may be able to render, even though it's insignificant. Still, he created us for that purpose. He is maintaining us, our very existence. He's the soul of the soul. We're meant to give him that little flavor, So we want to become free from Maya because we know that's an impediment to our real self, our real activity, which is service. So there has to be both. Like, we can think about it from both angles. I want to be free from Maya so I can serve Krishna, and I want to serve Krishna so I can be free from Maya. Right? In one sense, the desire for service is the natural desire. And then automatically, the desire for being free from Maya is achieved. Because the persons who are after liberation, they only single-pointedly desire freedom from Maya, right? But in that limited desire, they also are trapped in Maya, the last snare, which is that they never realize their service attitude towards Krishna. Right? Okay, we have a few moments. Does anybody want to share something else or ask another question? So, yeah, we're very fortunate here at RVC. We have Shri Shri Gaura Nitai's beautiful transcendental forms. And the more and more we dedicate ourselves for ornamenting their lordships and giving them fresh flowers with the clean water, and we cleanse the temple up to down, everywhere, the outside, we beautify. Every space should be beautified because it's all their property. Actually, in one sense, the whole world is their property. So we are authorized and deputized by the Parampara to reclaim all of Maya's territory back for Krishna. And Prabhupada did ask us, or he described that this movement is for creating a Brahminical class of men, and Brahminical persons on the Brahminical platform have the quality of cleanliness. And we should be famous for our cleanliness because, their lordships are right here and they're the most pure and they're very merciful to us. So they tolerate us, but we can also desire and we can work hard and we can make strategies and plans to systematically cleanse the temple and cleanse our hearts by hearing and chanting, cleanse the temple and the facilities, cleanse our clothing like that. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So the transcendental body of the Lord is always clean. And actually we are also clean when we meditate on the Lord's holy names. But Prabhupada has also asked us to act in accordance with the Pancharatrika Vidhi principles, and we strive to maintain the cleanliness for Srila Prabhupada's pleasure. So those are some points that I've been thinking about recently. Thank you very much, devotees. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.